Hi, everyone. We will begin momentarily. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for joining us, everyone. We're really excited. We'll get started in just a second. Hey, team. It's so great to see everyone and having you here with us today. We are so excited about the program that we have scheduled today. We have one of our fantastic board members, United Way supporters, and volunteers who's going to share a little of her story today. So we are so excited. To all the Emerging Leaders members, thank you for joining us. For all of you who are interested in learning more about Emerging Leaders, Emerging Leaders is a group that has been involved in our community for the last several years. If you are under the age of 40 and you give $1 a day to United Way, you will automatically be enrolled into this great program. It's all about giving back to our community, advocating for those in our vulnerable population who really need our help and our support, and volunteering, giving back to our community. That's what we stand for. We are the future leaders and givers in this community. And so it's important that we start now and surround ourselves with those who believe in what we believe in. I am so excited today to introduce to you one of our board members, Tabari Turner, who's with the Boys and Girls Club. And Tabari is going to lead us throughout the rest of this program. And so thank you so much. And we look forward to your questions and your comments throughout this event. Thank you so much. And we're going to turn it over to Tabari.
All right. Thank you, Chandra. I truly appreciate your introduction. We're super excited to have you guys here. Super excited about the conversation that we're going to have with our special guest. And I will speak a little bit more about her in just a moment. But before we get into our conversation with our special guest, we're going to talk a little bit about a new initiative that's going on here in our community. And here to talk about that is Ben Moser. He is the United Way's president and CEO, United Way of the Chattahoochee Valley's United Way, and the president and CEO, of the United Way of the Chattahoochee Valley. He's going to talk about the new initiative that the United Way is getting off the ground called United Against Racism. So Ben, please join us, and we're super excited to hear about it.
Thanks, Tabari. Appreciate it. Appreciate everyone being here today. Yeah, since the George Floyd killing, I think we've had to take a really hard look at how we think about issues of racial equity. And I think that as tragic as these events have been, they have given us a great opportunity to advance issues of equity in our community, specifically issues of racial equity, and to have conversations in ways that we have not really, maybe some of us haven't been comfortable in having before. And so here at the United Way of the Chattahoochee Valley, we say that we are united against racism. We are united for equity. And here's our statement on that. We're United Way of the Chattahoochee Valley believes in the inherent worth and dignity of all people. The United Way of the Chattahoochee Valley staff and board of directors stand to say that Black Lives Matter and that we are united against racism, united for equity, and united in this together. United in this together is our campaign theme this year, by the way. We say that Black Lives Matter because Black lives are in danger. And I've heard a lot of analogies around this over the last few months, but the one that really sticks out to me is that if there's a house on your street that's on fire, should the fire department spray water on all the houses out of fairness? No, that doesn't make any sense. So why is it that when Black lives are in danger, we should say all lives matter? That doesn't make any sense either. So we stand to say that Black lives matter. We need to really get real on these issues, and it's not about equality; it's about equity. Equality is you give the same thing to everyone. Equity is you give what folks need to them to succeed. And so that means that some people don't get anything and others get a lot more. And so in order to level set this, it's going to take a long, long time. It's a generational undertaking to address intergenerational issues of systemic racism. And when we talk about structural racism, let's think of it like this for a minute. For the 401 years that Black people have lived on the North American continent, the first 246 of those years, they were legally allowed to be enslaved. So let that sink in for a minute. And then think about the next 100 years, where Black people did not have full rights as Americans in the United States of America. So that's 346 years of 401 years where Black people were either legally allowed to be enslaved or did not have full rights as Americans. And then since the Civil Rights Act, there have remained vast inequities in healthcare, criminal justice. We've seen the mass incarceration of Black males for minor drug offenses, housing, education, employment, access to healthy foods in Black neighborhoods, environmental concerns, as well as many other systemic inequities. So these are some of the challenges that we face. And the systemic change needs to take place across all of those systems. So we know that outcomes for Black Americans are materially worse in almost every meaningful statistical category. And so how can that be? Well, it's because of 400 years of systemic racism, and we have to address those issues. And I would say that we stand on the shoulders of John Lewis and Martin Luther King Jr. and many other giants that risked and lost their lives to engage in this work. And we have to pick up that torch and carry it forward. That is our responsibility as Americans. The consequences of not addressing these issues are really too terrible to contemplate. We will never reach our full potential as a community, as a region, as a state, as a country, as a society, and as a species if we do not address these challenges. And I'm going to leave you with a quote from John F. Kennedy that I think sums this up really well. So let us not be blind to our differences, but let us also direct attention to our common interests and to the means by which those differences can be resolved. And if we cannot end now our differences, at least we can help make the world safe for diversity. For in the final analysis, our most basic common link is that we all inhabit the small planet, we all breathe the same air, we all cherish our children's future, and we are all mortal. And so that statement was made, 60 years ago at this point, 50 some years ago at this point, and it still rings as true today as it did then. And so I would just leave you all with that we have a lot of work to do, but it's work that we all need to do and do it together in order so that we can reach our full potential. So thanks, I appreciate the opportunity.
No. Thank you, Ben. We really appreciate everything you and the staff over at the United Way are doing to support the Black community and to end racism. And so I'm personally committed to doing whatever I can to support. Thank you, Ben. So that is a perfect segue into our conversation today. I want to introduce to you our guest speaker today. I'm going to read a little bit from her bio. She's quite impressive, so bear with me. So our special guest today is Gwen Ruff. She is the first Black female chair of the United Way campaign here in Columbus. She currently serves as a senior vice president with the Columbus Waterworks. She's the senior vice president of administration and community outreach. She's worked over 30 years. She has over 30 years experience in human resources and public administration in the public, private, and government sectors. She has her bachelor's of science in biology from Mercer University in Macon. And she has a master's of science in administration from Columbus State University. She also has a Master's of Strategic Studies from the Army War College and is a 2005 graduate of the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill Water and Wastewater Leadership Center. She's also life certified as a senior professional in human resources. So she has tons of human resources background. She also served 30 years combined active duty and reserve in the United States Army in various senior leadership positions. And before retiring before retiring from that in 2011, she was she retired from that in 2011 after 30 years. She's also actively involved in a number of civic and professional organizations, including the Community Foundation, Pastoral Institute, the American Waterworks Association. You name it, she's been involved in some type of way, and more than likely in one of the amazing organizations we have here in town, either serving as a board member or just being involved as a volunteer. So she is amazing, and we could go on and on all day about her, but we want to get her in here so that we can hear from her directly. So please welcome to the conversation, Gwen Ruff, again, the Senior Vice President of Administration and Community Outreach, and also this year's United Way campaign chair. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you, Tavari. Thank you for that great introduction. Sometimes when I hear it, I feel somebody else other than myself is being introduced. So I do thank you for those great words. Thank you very much. And thank you for inviting me to be with you today.
Awesome. No, we're super excited. Thank you for joining our ELU members for this conversation, and the greater community who is watching. So we're going to just jump in and just we'll ask a few questions. Also,
Sure.
The audience, as you're here, if you guys have any questions for Ms. Gwen, please feel free to drop them in the comments, and we can get those asked as well. So we have a few to kick us off, and then hopefully the community will ask a few more as well. All right. So, Ms. Gwen, you've been deemed as a fierce powerhouse in our community. You're serving as a senior vice president at the Waterworks. We all need our water, so that's super important. And you serve on several boards, etc. You're definitely a woman of influence in our community who's really paved the way for others. What is it like to be a female in leadership right now?
Well, first of all, I will tell you, being in leadership, period, is hard. It is hard work. And I think all those who are watching us now, the emerging leaders and folks who are leading in their communities and volunteer and in whatever area that you're in, you're kind of serving as a leader. Leadership is extremely hard. And even in this environment right now, particularly in this environment, when you talk about the disparities sometimes in expectations, when you talk about the disparities in opportunities, and when you think about how difficult it is to overcome challenges, whether it's getting your foot in the door, whether it's education, whether it's relationships or connections. Leadership can be hard. And when you're leading people, that's hard. But I will also tell you that leadership is very rewarding. Throughout my career, I've had opportunities to meet different individuals. I've had the opportunity to grow. I've had the opportunity to connect. And when I can look and see the people that I've been able to interact with and influence, and to see them grow and blossom, and when they reach to help others, that's the rewarding part of it. I guess the best analogy that I can give you is leadership sometimes is like adulting or parenting. It's hard, but it's also rewarding. And you learn how to get better from others. And you learn how to get better by getting out of your comfort zone and just expanding your opportunities. But it has been a great journey for me. I'm very grateful.
Awesome. And so just continuing our conversation on leadership for the moment, you're the first African-American woman to be selected as the campaign chair here in our community in the history of the United Way of the Chattahoochee Valley. How does that nostalgic, I'm sure?
Me earlier this year to serve. My thoughts were not about being the first Black woman chairing the campaign. My thoughts were actually thinking about all those amazing and powerful and fabulous people who had chaired the campaign previously. And quite frankly, I did not see myself in that same conversation. So I was absolutely overwhelmed, and I just, my mind would not let me receive it. So the first thing I did, I was like, okay, I need to pray about this. So I really prayed about it, because I recognized it's not for me to do for any glory or any fame. It's really about walking in the path that my faith leads me to walk. And after I really prayed about it, I spoke with my chain of command and our board and got their blessings to make this commitment, because it is a huge commitment. It's a huge time commitment. And I recognize that when I stand before the campaign, I not only represent United Way, I represent Columbus Waterworks, and I represent the Board of Water Commissioners, and I represent the over 200 team members that we have at Columbus Waterworks, and all of the different organizations that I participate in and support. And I want to make sure that I represent and I do well in that role. But after the fact, when somebody mentioned to me and said, oh, you're the first Black woman to lead the campaign, I was like, oh, okay, wow.
Gotcha.
Talk about a little bit of pressure. But I'm grateful for all of the women in my life who have been trailblazers, who paved the way for me, to make the opportunity for me to be in this particular role. And I'm also grateful for Ben and United Way and the board and the staff for being very intentional. Even before the statement came forward about Black Lives Matter and what we're doing as an organization, I think leadership has to be intentional when you look around the table, and to make sure that you have that diversity, equity, and inclusion at the table. And I do believe the leadership was sensitive to that, and I'm grateful that they reached out to me and asked me to lead the campaign. It's an exciting time for sure.
Absolutely. It definitely is. I know that, there are a lot of challenges out there right now. We're in the middle of a pandemic. And so leading the campaign is unique, of course, this year as well. But also continuing along the lines of the conversation Ben was having around United Against Racism. How does it feel to be a woman, an African-American leader in the climate that we're in, or the racial climate that we're in right now? How are you navigating those challenges?
Well, I will tell you, right after the George Floyd murder, I had individuals in my circle, Black, white, male, and female, reach out to me and have conversations about what we saw, what happened, and how it feels. A lot of organizations went forth and put out statements against racism and made statements towards Black Lives Matter. And I will tell you, it is difficult navigating in this environment, because a lot of people are uncomfortable with having these conversations. It doesn't matter whether you're Black or whether you're white or Hispanic. It doesn't matter your ethnicity or your race. Sometimes these conversations can be quite uncomfortable. And for me, I'm very comfortable with saying Black Lives Matter. In this environment, we have to recognize that Black lives matter. And I have to be willing to stand up and speak up and say that, and be willing to have that conversation, be willing to explain why I am passionate about that, and be willing to listen to others when they question, why do you say that? What does it mean? All lives matter. And I think Ben gave a perfect analogy of how we need to frame when we talk about Black Lives Matter. So I think in this environment, in the past, I've always been very cautious about how to have that conversation, how to approach it. Now, after seeing, I guess, what has happened over the past couple of months, I realize that I cannot be comfortable with not saying anything, because as we know, silence does not do anything to help the oppressed at all. And so we have to be intentional. We have to be mindful. we have to be effective when we speak up and speak out against what we know is not right.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, I 100% agree. Don't forget, if you're joining the conversation or if you just joined the conversation, don't forget to drop your questions for Ms. Gwen if you have any, or your accolades. Look at that, Gwen Ruff is a great leader because she always leads by example. Amazing, yes. And so I have a question for you. Going
Yes, sir.
back to more of, I guess, the beginning of your professional career. You know, reading your bio about all the human resources experience you have. How did you decide that HR was like the path for you? What kind of got you to that point?
Well, the interesting thing was when I was in college and undergraduate, I did get my degree in biology from Mercer University in Macon, Georgia. And while I was in undergraduate school, I enrolled in ROTC because I thought it was just something fun. I wanted to do something fun. And right before I graduated, the professor of military science encouraged me to go into the military. And that was not my initial plan. But, I said, okay, I'll do this. I actually tried to get into military police. I actually tried to get into finance. I actually tried to get into the intelligence field. But the good Lord saw different, and I ended up in the Adjutant General Corps, which is personnel administration. And it was then that I realized that I did have a passion for human resources. And that was a path that was, I think, just really divinely ordained for me. And the interesting thing was, I'm originally from Columbus, Georgia. And when I filled out my paperwork for the military, I wanted to go to Germany and Italy and Japan and all over the different places. I ended up at Fort Benning, and I'm
Wow.
ended up at Fort Benning, and really have pretty much have been here for most of my life. So that's how I got into human resources, and from there I decided to continue working on my degree. I continued at Columbus State University, then Columbus College, to get my master's degree and continue on with both my civilian and my military education. And I absolutely love the HR field. It's an opportunity for me to help others, to see others grow, to pour into others as folks before have poured into me. So I absolutely love the human resources field.
Awesome, awesome. So what are some of the challenges, if you can, whatever you can speak on? I know HR is sometimes confidential. So, but what are some of the challenges that you feel like you guys are facing in the HR field right now? I guess in this
I,
climate or in this moment.
yes, I think the biggest challenge is from a compliance standpoint. The laws are constantly changing. So you always have to be on top from a legal standpoint. You have the privacy acts when it comes to medical information. You have family and medical leave. You have different compliance issues with non-discriminatory and what information you can share, and the EEO claims and things of that nature, and the Fair Employment Rights Act. And I think it's important that I totally support the importance of those laws and that platform to make sure that we are enforcing equity, and that we are making good decisions when it comes to hiring, separations, performance management. I think that's really important. But I also think sometimes it can be very challenging navigating that, because from the HR world, as HR professionals, and I think as my brothers and sisters in the HR world understand, we get it. The hard part is helping managers and the frontline supervisors understand that, because that's not their area of expertise. And so we have to cultivate the relationships with those individuals so that they trust us. And so that when we say, oh, this is against the law, this can get us in trouble, it's not where we don't trust the managers and we don't support the managers, but we have to make recommendations about what the law says, what is right, and what will keep the organization out of trouble. That's our role. We are never truly on the side of the manager or on the side of the employee. It's about being on the side of right and doing what is right, doing what is equity, and doing what is the fair thing to do.
Awesome, awesome. And so I know, in the HR world, also you guys sometimes dibble or dab in professional development as well. And so I want to ask some questions around like what your advice, this is a group of emerging leaders or
Mhm.
young leaders in our community here in Columbus and abroad. What is your advice for navigating the professional world right now? Maybe if you have a few nuggets of wisdom for, of course, like right now, a lot of us are teleworking or we are, trying to figure out our new norms with the COVID-19 situation. And so what might be some advice that you have for young professionals who are navigating the workplace right now?
Wow. I think the first thing is to be self aware. And there are so many tools out there that you can take advantage of to assess how effective you are, whether it's strength finders, emergenetics, whatever you choose. 360, I think the key is to be self aware. And I will tell you, when you take those assessments and you have other people weighing in on how you perform and how what you do lands on them, your first reaction is not necessarily warm and fuzzy because sometimes the feedback you get will hurt your feelings. But it's important to get that feedback because sometimes we think we're doing everything right, but it may not be effective. And as leaders, you have to understand, how do I take what is right and deploy it and deliver it in such a way that is an effective um, initiative. So I would say one of the first things you need to do is to start looking at self-awareness. And if you don't have the resources to take advantage of any of the formal tools for self-awareness and self-evaluation, ask folks who are close to you. Just ask them. Have a conversation with them. Um, how does this sound? How did I present myself when I had this meeting? Um, how do you think it landed on people? What can I do to get better? And that kind of leads me into the one of the second things that I think is important for leadership is you have to be coachable. And when I say coachable, it's not just trying to become someone that you're not. You have to be your own authentic self, but you have to be willing to receive guidance to become better. And I think the best example I can give is many years ago when I worked at the Columbus Consolidated Government. I had just come off active duty as a captain. And, when you're a captain, you think you are at the top of your game. And so at that time, I thought I was at the top of my game. Little did I know. And I had the privilege to work for Warren Steele Sr. And he was retired military. I think he had spent almost 30 years in the military. And he was working with me on a project. And I was not quite as receptive as I should have been. And he just flat out looked at me and he said, "Look, we are on the same team. What I'm telling you and what I'm giving you is to help you be better so that we can be better, so that the city government can be better." And I had to let that marinate a little bit. And to this day, I have not forgotten that and how important it is to be coached by someone who really wants to help you get better. And it may not feel comfortable. It may not feel, this is not what I want to hear, but we have to be receptive to that because we can all get better. We can all learn, we can all grow. And each day is just an opportunity to get better. So those are off the top of my head. Those would be the two things that I would leave with the emerging leaders.
I'm gonna look into the 360 assessment. I always wonder. I wonder what my coworkers think of this. So I'm gonna get us to do the 360 assessment and see what we can do. So someone asked the question, Sharika Days asked, have you taken on any DIY projects during quarantine or while we were in quarantine?
I think the most exciting thing that I've been able to do, and hi, Sharika, she's one of my favorite folks, and she's an entrepreneur in the community, and she's
Yeah, I
doing
see her a lot
fabulous
around town.
things. Yes, yes, and a
Hmm.
leader in her own right. So thanks for that question, Sharika. Many years ago, I used to love to work in my yard. I used to have flowers and put things on my porch and what have you. And then life kind of got in the way. And I would leave for work in the morning and it's dark and come home or go to the gym and it's dusk. And so I had grass in my yard, but I no longer had flowers. So during this quarantine, I've had the opportunity to start piddling around in my yard a little bit and planting some flowers and putting some rose bushes out, which is really a tribute to my mom. My mom lives with me now. I moved her here back in December, which I'm so grateful to have her with me. And she absolutely loves roses. So I was able to put some rose bushes out, and she sits on the porch and she criticizes my garden because either I'm not watering it enough or I'm watering it too much or I'm not doing something right. But I absolutely enjoy working on that during this quarantine.
Awesome, awesome. Next question says, hey Gwen, in the current environment, COVID-19, what do you see that has changed forever in the ways we manage hiring, training, et cetera, compared to just 6 months ago or pre-COVID? What has changed in your world or in the professional environment, period?
Great question.
Forever.
Thank you, Pat. Yes, great question. I think we have learned in the HR field how to be more efficient. The COVID-19 has forced us to use technology a lot differently than we have in the past, and it's taught us that we can trust technology. We are now able to get signatures on things electronically, where in the past it was passing around paper and waiting for it to go from one office to another. And now we're able to use technology where we can sign and email documents, get things accomplished so much more efficiently. When it comes to hiring, using electronic mechanisms to interview people, to get the information that we need, and also recognizing what skill sets are now important than what we had before. Because now we can look at how do we modify this job to get things accomplished, but this job can be remotely. And in the past, we have kind of dug our heels in about having people physically in the office, or can we trust people to telecommute? How do we manage people who are working from home? And there is so much unknown right now with this environment that as we have adapted and adjusted, we've kind of accepted, you know what, this really works. This really is efficient. And do we even need to go back to what it used to be? And so I really think taking advantage of technology, really thinking outside the box, learning from other organizations who have been doing this for years and have been very comfortable with managing their workforce from a virtual platform.
Awesome. You know, you just said something, and I kind of want to talk a little bit more about it. You know, in Columbus, I think we pride ourselves a lot on collaboration as a community, working together to get tasks completed and make our community better. Talk a little bit more about the importance of us collaborating as a community and what you've seen happen in Columbus, and I guess things that you like to see happen as well.
Okay, well, I will say one of the biggest things for me that I've seen collaboration, and you've mentioned before that I've been able to serve on the Community Foundation board, is the partnership between the Community Foundation and the United Way of the Chattahoochee Valley right after the COVID-19 hit our area. And just partnering together to create the Coronavirus Response Fund to generate funds that directly help those agencies fund those COVID related expenses. Initially, we were having weekly stand-up calls with the Community Foundation and United Way. They are now down to once a week where community individuals can call in and hear top leadership from Mayor Skip Henderson to local legislative leaders to Dr. Lewis with the school board to executives from the medical field to our agencies, talk about what's going on in the community, what their needs are. And it's just amazing how an issue can come up on that phone call where there's a need, and before the end of the day, that need is met by an agency or a community volunteer or someone who steps up to the plate and say, hey, I can help out in this area. So for me, that has been absolutely huge. And just kind of working together, which is a perfect segue with what we have to do with this United Way campaign this year.
Mm-hmm.
We have to continue as a community working together to support the campaign because the need is very great this year. Not saying that it hasn't been in the past years, it has been. But now we have a lot more individuals in our community who previously have not been impacted as they are being impacted now with the pandemic, with whether it's food insecurity, daycare, childcare needs with the school being closed, individuals having to be laid off or reduced work hours. We are seeing a huge impact in our community from the pandemic, but we're also seeing a big stand up of people coming up to the plate to really unite together to address this issue.
Excellent. You kind of answered my next question, which was just what does, I don't know if you want to say any more about it, so I will ask it, but again, the theme for the campaign this year is United in This Together. What does that theme mean to you, if you want to add anything else to it?
Just to add to it, it just really means the strength of all of us working together. It's just really the strength. There's an African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. And so this is one of those situations that as a community, we really have to go together. We really have to be united, and everyone being able to do their part. We recognize there are a lot of the individuals who have supported United Way in the past may not be able to do it at that level this year because they have been personally impacted by the pandemic. So this year, what we're trying to do is, instead of trying to dig deep in the existing resources that we have, we're trying to spread our arms and go wide. And we're saying, if you have never supported and participated in the United Way campaign before, we are asking you to do that this year. Even if it's a one-time gift, we are asking you to support the campaign this year. We're asking young adults, we're asking our seasoned donors to spread the word, to really talk about the good works that we are doing with United Way, supporting our agencies, supporting their mission, supporting our initiatives for basic needs, health, income, and education, for really making a difference in the community. And so we really do have to collaborate and come together as a community to support these agencies who've had to change how they deploy their mission in this new environment.
Awesome. Yes, I can speak on behalf of one of those agencies, of course, Boys and Girls Club, and being super innovative and continuing to reinvent how we operate in order to support the young people who need us most. So I 100% second that. We've definitely got to work together more than ever to get those missions deployed. So also I've heard that you have a pretty impressive campaign cabinet this year.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I've seen these pictures and these names, and yeah, and so it's pretty impressive. Tell us, what can the community expect from you and the cabinet in this upcoming year?
Okay, and I just want to kind of piggyback on what you said. Yes, Boys and Girls Club, you guys are doing amazing work. You have a fearless leader in Rodney Close. I just think the world of him. He does amazing things. And my kids have been beneficiaries of the Boys and Girls Club, and you guys have planted a seed in them, and they are who they are today because of that particular experience. So I'm very grateful to the Boys and Girls Club of the Chattahoochee Valley. But yes, we do have an amazing campaign. We have a campaign comprised of 20 amazing community leaders and volunteers. Half of the campaign membership are women leaders, and 30% are Black or people of color. And that was not by accident. That is part of our initiative to say, as an organization, as a cabinet, as a board, we want to reflect the demographics of the people that we serve. And everyone on the cabinet, all of the ELU volunteers, all of the loan executives, all of the campaign coordinators, all of them are passionate about United Way. They understand the mission, they understand what they have to accomplish. And so it's great that we have that diversity, but it's also great that we have individuals who are committed to the United Way mission. And they are just really fantastic. I'm looking forward to great things coming from the cabinet and coming from all of the volunteers that we have working the campaign this year.
Awesome. Okay, so we have just a few minutes left. I want to ask a few less professional questions. Let's just get to know Gwen. So tell us. So you talked about the garden. You talked about the garden that you've been working on during the pandemic. What else do you like to do during your free time to just kind of unwind?
I love to read. I enjoy reading. I enjoy, believe it or not, I enjoy watching women's basketball, which has kind of been a little bit different for me this year because they're kind of playing in the bubble. I have 3 amazing kids, and I have 4 fabulous grandkids who are just the light of my eye. And I just love them to the moon and back. So they really bless me. As I mentioned, I have my mom here with me. That has been a transition, and I'm enjoying every minute of it. I am so grateful. I do have a network of sisters and individuals that I talk with on a regular basis, and we have great conversations. And my fellowship, my faith, working with individuals in my fellowship. On Sundays, on Tuesdays, we have a prayer meeting, connecting with individuals that really feed my soul. It has been difficult. I'm not going to pull any punches. Being in the pandemic has been difficult, but I truly believe no matter what we are going through, there's always something we can be grateful for. So each day, not only do I strive to get better each day I seek to find something that I can be grateful for. And when I find that I'm grateful for the little things, the Lord blesses me with other things. And I just really have to choose to be grateful, even in the midst of what's going on.
Wow. That's a great challenge. Find one thing to be grateful for each day. That's great. I'm going to write that one down too. So we have a question on the screen. So you're so inspirational, so calm. Is there anything that keeps you up at night? Probably besides the campaign, because it's such a heavy lift. What else keeps you up at night?
The campaign. But I will always tell you, one thing that's interesting for me, even though I love to read, I love talking with folks, and I'm very much I'm an extrovert. I love being around people. I love getting energy from people. But what keeps me awake at night sometimes is my brain. My brain sometimes just will not stop thinking. And I just really have to talk to myself and settle myself down and sometimes just pray, because my mind is always thinking about what about this? What about that? Connecting dots and just really trying from a strategic standpoint to think things through. And sometimes I wake up at night and my mind is thinking, but what I found that helps is to just write it down. And if I write it down, then I can release it. And then I can just, try to go back to sleep. But I will say, after the George Floyd murder, there was a period of time that I really, really struggled. And that really kept me awake at night because I told some friends, I said, I think every mother in America, in the world, who saw that young man crying out for his mother wept. Every mother wept. And even if you're not a mother, but to see someone crying out for their mother and could not be helped, that just really did something to me. And it took a while for me to get through that. But what I would say as a segue, this is a difficult time for all of us. And I think sometimes we forget to do that self care. And that self care is the mental wellness. And with the pandemic, with race relations, with economics, with the uncertainty, sometimes it feels overwhelming. And I would encourage anyone, whether you're an emerging leader, whether you're a seasoned person like myself, when you find yourself getting overwhelmed and when your wagon is overflowing, get help. That I really think as a nation, we need to get rid of the stigma for individuals seeking help for mental wellness. We need to get rid of that stigma, particularly in this environment. There's a lot going on. I have individuals who are close to me who've lost loved ones, who've lost their jobs, who still have some uncertainty and their finances have been challenged, individuals with health challenges. There's a lot going on. And I would encourage, not just what keeps you awake at night, but if you can't push through it, don't hesitate to reach out and get help. There is no shame. There should not be any stigma in reaching out and getting the help that you deserve. And that's the key. You deserve it.
Right, right. Absolutely. You deserve it. If you need resources, United Way has resources. Head over to the United Way's website. I believe 411 will be able to direct you to wherever you need to be. But please reach out if you need support or help. So last thing. Thursday is our
Yes.
United Way kickoff. So super excited. People are coming.
Yes.
They can't wait until Thursday. Tell us what's in store for Thursday. Tell us what we can look forward to
Well,
on Thursday. Oh, pom-poms. Oh, 211. Sorry, Erica just got
yes.
me right. It's 211. Reach out to 211
Yes.
if you need mental health resources. 211 with the United Way. Yes, Thursday. What can we
Absolutely.
look forward to?
Thursday. This Thursday at 12:30, we are doing our kickoff campaign. It's a virtual campaign, which is going to be fabulous. It's different from before, where we all were in the room and we got energy from each other. But guess what? Because it's virtual, more people can participate. They can log in on Facebook, on YouTube, watch us, get excited, spread the word. Come on now, my emerging leaders, I'm counting on you to spread the word through your social network. Go ahead and register, log in, get some great information. We are going to have an amazing kickoff this year. I can tell you the United Way staff, they have been working hard. They have taken care of me, and sometimes I can be high maintenance. I'm like, oh my goodness, but you don't want to miss it. So please go ahead and register. And Tavari, if you can make sure as an emerging leaders board member, if you can get that information out to all of the ELUs and encourage them to register, we certainly do appreciate it. So I'm grateful to you and to Chandra and United Way for inviting me to have this conversation with you today. If anyone has any questions, they can just get in touch with me via email or work through you or Chandra, and I will be happy to answer any questions. And I'm just so grateful for all of you and all of your good work that you do in the community and your support.
No worries. No, we thank you for coming online and also for your leadership in our community and with the United Way. We're super excited. For those of you that might have missed it, the kickoff, the United Way kickoff, highly anticipated, is Thursday at 12:30, right back here on the United Way Facebook. You can join us live here or on their YouTube. So make sure you look it up, set your calendar, and spread the word around our community about the great work that the United Way is doing in our community to support those who need it most. And so with that being said, we appreciate you guys joining us for this amazing chat. Thank you, Ms. Gwen, for your amazing leadership. And we are super excited to see all the amazing things that the campaign does this year. Good luck.